Hi folks, this is Mr. Mitchell coming at you with some basic miter saw safety in this video today. I'm just going to go over the fundamentals of how to use the equipment safely and how to protect yourself from harm when you're cutting on the miter saw. So first things first, I would like you to note that I'm wearing some CSA approved safety gear. So PPE is always essential when we're using any power tool or any piece of equipment in the shop. Secondly, when we're cutting on a miter saw like this, we want to make sure it's secured to whatever surface it is that we're going to be using as our table. In this case, I have a stand that came with the saw, so I know that it's secured there and it's not going anywhere. But failing that, if you're using a miter saw on, say, a woodwork bench or any surface like that, you would want to use screws or bolts to fasten it to the surface so it's not going to move around. Before I start cutting, before I'm using any tool or piece of equipment with rotating parts, I'm going to make sure that I'm not wearing any loose clothing, and I'm going to remove any jewelry that I have. In this case, I have a neck chain that I'm going to remove just to keep me extra safe here so it doesn't get caught in any moving parts. So when we're cutting on the miter saw, a couple things we want to check out. Just our basic operation. We want to make sure that the guard is functioning on the saw. So in this case, I'm going to open up the saw, and so you can see how the guard closes over the blade when it's in the upright position. So as we come down, that guard's going to move in order for us to make our cut. So we can see clearly that it's working properly. Next, just to talk about our body positioning when we're cutting on a miter saw, right? So it's designed for right-hand use. So we want to ensure that our body isn't in line with the blade in case of any type of debris or small pieces of wood or kickback during our cutting gets projected away from the saw. We don't want it to impact our body. So when we're cutting on it, we're always going to stand to the left side of that blade. The saw is designed for right-hand operation, so we're always going to use our right hand to operate the saw. Okay, so the guard works. We want to keep in mind when we're, for my demonstration, I'm just cutting a small piece of wood here. But anything that's heavy or long, if it's long, we want to support it. In this case, there's supports that are attached to the stand. But in a shop scenario, you might have to set up, say, a sawhorse, or you can purchase roller stands and various things that go along with your miter saw. Works with a miter saw or a table saw. Another thing we want to watch for when we're cutting with the miter saw is if we're making angular cuts. We want to ensure that our blade is clear of these parts of the fence back here. So just once we adjust to whatever given miter that we want or angle, we just want to check and make sure that we have clearance from the blade between any parts of the fence there. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to cut at 90 degrees here. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're keeping our body to the left side of the blade in order to prevent any impact from debris or kickback. And I want to make sure, if I'm not using a clamp to hold down my stock, that I keep my hand a safe distance away from the blade. So a safe distance away from the blade, as far away as you can while keeping your stock stable, but the minimum distance is at least 6 inches. I wouldn't want my hand to be within 6 inches of where that blade is. So what I'm going to do is put my stock in here where I want to cut it. I'm keeping my blade as far away as I possibly can, or my hand, sorry, away from the blade. And I'm going to power up the saw and slowly bring the blade down until I've complete my cut. Then I want to ensure that I wait until the blade stops rotating before I lift the blade back up out of the cut. Here I go. Right-handed operation, body to the left of the blade. Oh, I guess I'm going to plug in the saw first.